Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This was interesting setup. We've managed to get here. Like we're here. We have posted an amazing guest. I've told you guys I was gonna bring women and girls that I genuinely like their spirit, who are doing amazing stuff in their own way, who slaying their own things. Yes, hey, what? Literally, some of them, you might see a lot of forest plants. Some of them have books. They're all different, but the only thing that matters is that these women are absolutely amazing, and I love what they're doing, what they stand for, and I bring them to my channel because you can learn something from them. You can, bring something fresh to your timeline, and overall, you can just meet amazing people who are killing it in their own way. They might just happen to be women of color, most of them black women, but you know what, you can't call me biased because there aren't enough platform out there for us. So if my guest just subconsciously happens to be black, then it happens. Get on with it. Let me not bore you with intro. Let the person introduce herself. I've got the lovely Amina today joining me. Woo! Should I do this? Because I don't know if you're on this side or this side when I do end up editing. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. You take over. Tell me, who is Amina? Yeah.
I was literally going to do the YouTube intro. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hi guys, so my name is Amina. I'm a software engineer, a writer, a content creator. I'm a YouTuber as well.
Yes.
And I'm also 1 out of 3 of this podcast called the Black Muslim Girl podcast. Yeah. In a nutshell.
I've seen you guys. Is it the yellow? Is it yellow? I'm trying to see are you involved in the Home Girl Unite?
So I don't run their page or anything, but I go to a lot of their events.
Okay. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot as well. You said software engineer.
Yes.
And
okay.
How did that happen? So did you just wake up one day and you was like, you know what, tech where it is, I am coming? Or did you just manage to watch videos? Was your degree that side? Did you even go to university? How did you end up in the tech world?
So I don't have a degree. So after I finished my A-levels, I didn't know if I wanted to go into the sciences or if I wanted to go into the humanities subject. I was just a bit overwhelmed after my A-levels. So I thought, let me explore my options, and then if that doesn't work out, I could always go to uni. So that's what I did.
Okay.
And initially I was working in marketing and PR, and I used to work in the media field, basically, like all the creative stuff. So we used to create content, we used to help small businesses and charities build an online presence. So that's kind of what I was doing from when I was like 18 up until 19-ish, I think. And then after that, I got an opportunity to get into work at a film and production company. So I thought, you know what, let me try out the film industry. Yeah. So I transitioned into film and TV. Yeah. And then I worked at quite a few projects. So the company I was working at, they produced like a few BBC series. I think they've got a film that might still be on Netflix. It's called Message from the King. It's got Chadwick Boseman in it, the guy who played Black Panther. So and then we produced,
like, need to say the second line. You don't need to say the second line.
I just had to, because some people are like, oh, it's just a Netflix film, but then they realise, oh wait, who's in there?
Yeah, let me watch.
I've worked with quite a few names actually, like quite a few big names. So that was fun. I really enjoyed that. But then it got to a point where, you know how the creative scene is, like everything's cliquey. Yeah. Like trying to getting your foot in is one thing, but then trying to climb up the ladder is another thing. And it got to a point where it was like, I'm taking on these new projects and jobs and all these roles, but it's like I'm overqualified for this. And trying to go a step up, it's like you had to know certain people, had to do this. And I was networking, pushing, but it was like I didn't feel challenged enough. So I felt like I wanted something that was still creative but a bit more challenging, and like I kind of wanted to explore the sciencey part of myself a bit more again, because it's like I kind of missed that logical aspect. I kind of missed the whole math solving problem thing. I can't believe I say I'm missing maths. I can't believe it, because at the time I was like, I can't wait, but then it was like yeah, so I kind of wanted like a mix. I just wanted something more challenging, because you know, like when you're in your early 20s, it's like, well, I'm still in my early 20s, but I think I was like at 21, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going through like a crisis. I can't I don't know, I'm doing in my life. I feel like I'm not doing enough, blah, blah. I want something more challenging for myself. So then while I was working on these projects and stuff, I was working with the digital teams, and I got exposed to things like UX and UI design. So like UX is like how the user is experiencing the product that you've made for them. And then UI is user interface. So how it looks like, you know, how seamless it feels, like that's like the aesthetic attached to the user's experience of whatever they're looking at, whether it's a game, whether it's an app, whether it's a website. Yeah. So that initially is what I wanted to get into, and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And then when I was applying to like higher level marketing roles, I would see things like WordPress developer, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So I was like, what is all of this? Yeah. And then I was going to all these tech events. I'll literally search on Eventbrite like free tech events, or, you know, free events happening in London. And if they looked interesting, I'd go and check it out, network with people. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about coding and technology in general. And then I was like, you know what? This is for me. I want to give this a go. I want to see where this will take me. So then after a while, like I was just talking to people, keeping in contact with people that I had met at events on LinkedIn. And then I started exploring boot camps or courses, and I applied to quite a few, but then a lot of them I didn't apply because boot camps are expensive. Like I was seeing numbers like 10,000, 15,000, and I'm just there like,
I don't have that.
I'm broke.
Yeah,
I'm broke. 21-year-old me, I was like, I'm broke. Yeah. So like that put me off. And then it's so mad because I remember tweeting about, oh yeah, this coding stuff looks really cool. I really want to learn how to code this and that. And Twitter came through, like someone literally DM'd me a link to this application. And basically there's a platform called Code First Girls. Mm-hmm. And it's an organization that teaches women how to code, and they do like evening classes and stuff like that. So for the first time ever, they were teaming up with a telecommunications company, which is where I work now. Yeah. They were teaming up to give 30 women the opportunity to learn how to code from scratch. And then after that, you have the opportunity to apply for a role at that company. Yeah. So I remember applying. I didn't hear back for time, like for months even. Yeah. And I just carrying on with like my film projects and stuff like that. And then maybe around like November time, like literally early November, maybe like the 1st of November, 2nd of November, I got a call back. They talked to me on the phone, like asking me questions like, why are you interested in coding, this and that. And they're like, we really like your application. We'd like to offer you a place. Wow. And the course started November 6th. So there's such a short space of time for me to make a decision. Yeah. And what was mad was that at that moment in time, it was like I was being offered another job, and it was like in animation, and it was a marketing role, but it involved more like animating, and it involved more like, you know, there's children's YouTube channel accounts that make millions of views. Yes. I'd be managing people. I would be managing people that make those channels. Yeah.
Don't let me sing on these
songs. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, Papa, do I go for that role and explore? Because that was like a step up. Like salary wise was a step up, career wise a step up. So I go in my comfort zone and go for a higher role, and then think about coding later on, or do I take this chance at the boot camp for like 4 months where I'm not going to be working? So eventually it just came down to what I was interested in. Like with the marketing stuff, the creative stuff is like I can always be part of it. It's more flexible anyway. So I decided, let me just try something new, because at this point I was over it. Like I was so tired of like going in circles, and I just needed something new and fresh. So I went with the boot camp. Those 4 months, guys, the learning curve. The learning curve was mad. The learning curve was so mad.
You sign up for something, you're like, you know what, I need some challenge, I need to learn things, and then halfway you're like, did I just sign up for something to make myself feel dumb?
You're even
I was okay knowing all. I was okay with, like, you know, and then, you know, it's like, for me, it's nothing like yours, but then I just said to myself a few weeks ago, I'm gonna be excellent at spreadsheet. I'm gonna be spreadsheet queen, and nobody can stop me. What is your name? Sign up for YouTube. You don't understand. I took this seriously. I opened a whole new planner. Halfway in, and I'm like, I'm done. That's what it is. It can't be any other way. I'm
no,
this is not for me. So it's just when you sign up for something, you're super excited, but when the work and the actual step by steps that you have to follow, and you're like, why did I even bother with this. I'm happy knowing it. And it's gross.
Bruh.
Yeah, it's gross.
Coding. I felt like my brain was broken.
I can imagine.
Like, for me, because I came from a background, like, okay, it's all creative and stuff, yeah? But in terms of my relationship with a laptop, yeah, if it crashes, I'm taking out the battery, putting it back in and restarting the laptop. So imagine I went from that to now actually coding stuff.
Yeah.
That journey was, it was long, but at the same time, it was like, okay, my brain is hurting, but at least it's working now.
Of course.
You know, like, for the first few weeks, bruh, it was long. It was so long. It was like, I felt like I just went and jumped off a whole cliff.
I think the only thing I can say is similar to, it's like maths A-level. Have you done maths A-level?
Listen, I saw my girl at GCSE. I was like,
basically, I got an A for my maths, and I was like, you know what? Forget words. I think I'm number.
GCSE or A-level?
GCSE, A-level. So wait, let me tell you the story. So I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh my god, GCSE you up and makes you feel like you're smart, right? But GCSE
gasses you.
GCSE A star or A is literally like E in A-level. So I come in now with my A stars. I'm like, you know what? I got this. Numbers, that's where I am. GCSE A-level, strict to maths. Computing, I picked computing. I picked IT, picked maths. I swear to God, and that lasted 24 hours. I just literally looked at the whole thing and I'm like, this is not for me. This is not, I didn't even bother doing the test. You know how you do the trial for 7 days? Yeah.
You guys had a trial? Wow.
Yeah, like
some bougie college.
You can change your course in the first few days. Or, you can change the first few days.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily like few months in and you're failing. That's your problem. But then first few days, I said, nope, this is not for me. And then I jumped more into like humanitarian subjects and ID, and I'm like, wow, this is not for me. So that's the only.
You even played yourself. I got a B in maths, and I still said, you know what? No. That was literally my. Maths was my lowest grade. I was like, I'm out.
I don't know how there's people that got A star or A in maths for their GCSE in order for them to do, I think it's physics, or they can do more hardcore computer degree or something. But for me, I look at those people, I'm like, wow, you're just, don't know, your brain, my brain, no same. I don't know. They got A in A-levels. Imagine getting A in your maths A-levels. It's just, what is that?
Maths A-levels.
So you
just the thought makes me
done your thing, and then they offered you a job after?
Oh, right, yeah. So we did the 4-month course, but then 3 of those months were in the classroom in London, and then the last module was going to be taught on the job if you actually passed the technical test and you passed the interview. Okay. So then throughout each module, like, you're getting assignments and projects to build, and then after that you talk with your instructor and tell them why you approached it this way, how you put it together, what was your thought process. Some projects were individual and some projects were a group. Whoa. So then that was just long in itself. And then when it got to the interview stages, people applied for different types of roles, and then the person who's interviewing you would look at your performance on the boot camp, and then they'll ask you questions as well. The interview wasn't as technical as it could have been, like traditionally how it is with a lot of engineering roles, but they were already seeing some of the stuff that we were doing, so they kind of knew like our ability. And then that interview I don't know, like, I was excited and nervous. At that point I was like, I have nothing to lose, and it's like I really needed to get that job, because those 4 months, luckily they were covering like travel and lunch. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why I even went for it, because it was free, and then they were doing that as well. So that played a huge role in my decision to ultimately go the boot camp. I feel like if they were doing like 10-15 grand, I probably would have gone with the animation, the other job that I was offered. So like, I did the interview, and then I heard back within like 2-3 days, and they're like, oh yeah, we really want you to be part of our team, we think you'd make a good fit. And after that, that's when I had to like start making plans to move out, because the jobs that they were offering were not in London. So
that's the gritty of this whole video. So you are living with your parents, with your siblings. Life is la-di-la-da. We don't know the background of your life. I do, but the viewers don't. So in that situation, moving out, was it something that was already in your head, or you had to like say, okay, cool, now I got this job and it's abroad and I'm going to go get a job? Or was it already something that you thought about and it was just like in your vision list? You're like, okay, cool, I maybe I should move out. I'm not in the right environment. Or did the job come and you're like, you know what, I got the job now, I'm moving out?
It was a bit of both. Like, I kind of always wanted to move out. Like, I always told myself, like, and in fact, it's even a conversation that popped up like years back. Yeah. I always told my parents, like, I'm not waiting to get married to be moving out. Yeah. Like, I'm moving from one property to another, under one guardianship to another. It's nah. Yeah. Something about that just didn't sit well with me from a very young age. Yeah. It's just living in London. It's like, how am I going to afford that? Yeah. So, you know, it's something that was at the back of my mind, but it wasn't something that I was actively like pursuing or pushing for. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I was a bit older, like if I was maybe like in my mid-20s or something, maybe it would have been more urgent. But at the time, like when I was thinking this stuff, I was a teenager. Yeah. So like, it was always there, like, yeah, you know what? If I can one day, then I'm definitely, like, I just knew ultimately that I'm not going to wait to get married to move out. That's one thing that I 100% confirmed with myself. So, and I remember my parents would laugh at me. They're like, oh, well, you live in London anyway, so good luck. They kind of saw it as like, let's talk. Yeah. They kind of saw it as that. So then obviously this whole opportunity comes in and I realized like, okay, none of these jobs are in London. And I was like, well, I'm going to move out. But like the whole time I'm making all these plans to move out and stuff. And I haven't told my parents. So where was I going? Where was I going, please?
Every time I hear this story, even though I've heard it before, I'm nervous. I'm just nervous.
That year I realized me and Reckless are like this.
Yeah, best friends. You know that little...
Look. No.
Oh my God.
I think that 2019 was so chaotic. I realized
2020 looked glamorous.
I'm a messy little girl. Oh, I'm a little messy one, I am.
Oh God.
So like, I got the job now. I signed the contract because even I was thinking, oh, the location's not in London. I don't know. Part of me just wasn't thinking too much about. But yeah. I was like, let me just do it, and then whatever happens, isn't it? Yeah. So it was with Allah. So then I signed the contract, and this is where the madness really starts.
Yeah.
So now I signed the contract that they offered me like mid to end February.
Yeah.
So my job was initially supposed to start March the 4th, but I extended it to March the 18th because I needed time to move. But at the time, I only had like 3-4 weeks max to move, probably even less than that. And I remember like we were still finishing off the third module before we go on to, because some people were still doing interviews.
Yeah.
And they were still waiting to hear back.
Yeah.
And then, so because of that, and also I finished a lot of my assignments early, sometimes we were able to, instead of going into class, we could go and book viewings to whichever location that we had applied for. So me and a group of girls, we went to the location. My parents didn't know about any of this.
Oh my.
We were house hunting. I was like, oh, you know, you go on Rightmove and you're like, what's the minimum price? No limit. Yeah. I was proper being cheeky, looking at Rightmove, you know, click, oh yeah, that looks nice. Oh, the kitchen's cute. I was proper like booking viewings left, right and centre, going with my girls to this new town that I've never been to before, you know, talking with the agents and stuff like that. This whole time, the thought of me telling to my parents it wasn't even at the back of my head, it was non-existent.
At this point, it's like, you know, when you're cooking and then you put the rice and then you put the water, you already flavored the whole thing and everything is boiling and you forget to put the lid on. That's where my emotions are. Like,
I didn't even forget to put the lid on. I left the lid right there. I was like,
in fact, you put your hijab on and you left the house while that was boiling. Oh my God.
It's all right. Everything's about to crash and burn. It's fine.
I can't believe you. You're cheeky.
The whole time, like, I was just, because the whole thing just escalated so quickly. Like, I just finished a course 4 months. You know, some people study a whole degree in computer science to get jobs like this. And for me, it's like a whole 4 months. That felt like a lot because there's so much information to process. Then you've now offered me a job, and now in a few weeks I have to move. Like 3-4 weeks max, I have to be moving, and then I'm going to start a new job in a new town, in a new industry. Like, everything was happening at 100 miles per hour. I don't know how I was.
Got the house before you told your parents?
I'm going to get to that.
Oh God.
I'm going to get to that. Anyways, so now I found this place, and it was a brand new house share. So like on the website it said it's a house share, but it was they literally just finished building it. So I'll be the first person and the only person living there. So I saw this place, it was really nice. I was like, okay, I'm taking this one, because I wanted to do house share first because I hadn't been working for 4 months, so financially I couldn't just move into a new apartment straight away. I was like, let me do this for 6 months, because the house share contract was 6 months. And then after that I'll see my options. So I moved in, I'm like, yeah, brand new house. Yes, it's a house share, but like there's no one else. It was a 6-bedroom house share, but there was no one else but me. So I was like, yeah, I'm living, I'm chilling. I signed the agreement, and then they're like, okay, this house will be, they were still finishing up building it. So like, they're like, we're gonna finish everything and you should be able to move in by the 6th of, I think, yeah, it was the 6th of March, which is why I extended my starting date, because I was meant to start on the 4th, but then it was like, I needed time to move. So I asked them if I can push it back by a week and a bit. And they're like, yeah, sure. So 6th of March, I think it was on a Friday. I was like, okay, that's a good sign. So everything's happening. I'm already planning, like I'm low-key packing and putting stuff in bags and stuff like that in the house while I'm finishing up this course. And then it gets to, oh yeah, by this time as well, like my 21st birthday happened. So and I went to a Homegirls Unite event. So Homegirls is a platform for eldest daughters from immigrant families. It's a support group for those girls. And I went there on my birthday, and like I had the best time ever. It was like a therapy session, but I got cake with it. And then I made some new friends, and some of those friends, like, I'm still close with even now. So like I told them about the situation. They all looked at me like I was mad. They're like, are you mad? Are you mad?
Yeah. Listen, I'm the oldest and from an immigrant family, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Someone might be watching this video and they don't understand what is the big deal. You get a job, you move out. For us, it's like if you are in our situation, or if you know, if you're Somali, like this is basically like straight up the most chaotic thing you can do in the house. You might just say everybody fight. It's like literally throwing a little bomb there and just running away. That's the same equivalent.
I don't even think I would run away. I'll just sit there and watch.
You just watch the whole fire. Like, you're brave. I won't be able to do that. Yeah.
So like, I went to this event. I told them, they're like, oh, okay, we're here for you, because they were scared for me. So then now, fast forward, we're in early March now, and it's the week where I have to go and collect my keys and officially move in. Guess who still didn't tell her parents?
You know what it is, yeah? Some people love the drama, and you're one of those people. You're like, you know what, guys? I'm going to do the most dramatic exit ever. Because how dramatic...
Do you know what it is? It wasn't... do you know what? I was actually trying to think of the opposite. Because, okay, let me tell you my reasoning. A, because I'm mad. B, because I'm mad. But C, with Somali families, you have to just rip the band-aid off and go for it. Like, sometimes sitting there and explaining it to them, they're more likely to talk you out of it. And in my head, I was thinking, you know what? Everything's happening at once. Let me just go with the flow. If I'm done out, I'm done out. At the same time, it was like, when I think back, it's like, I would have liked to have had the conversation with my parents, but at the same time, I'm glad I didn't, because they would have probably talked me out of it, and then it would have distracted me from the studying. So I just didn't want that. So that's why I kept putting off. I was like, no, it'll be fine. And then boom, it hits me all at once. And I'm like, I'm going to have to tell them, because if I'm going to go and collect my keys, I can't now just leave and never come back. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So then it was like maybe a day or two, I think. A day or two before the Friday where I had to go and collect my keys and officially move in. And then I remember I texted my dad, Zad, are you at home? Because I think, I asked him, are you free? And then he was like, yeah, sure. And then he came, and then I sat him down. So I went and and I had a copy. I went before I had the conversation with my dad, because I'm more, at the time, like, I was more open to talking with my dad than my mum. So I had my tenancy agreement with me, and I printed out a copy of my job contract. And he's like, what's that you're holding? I was like, So, you know, the boot camp I was doing, I finished it. I got offered a job. So this is the contract. Also, it's not in London. I have to move out. Here's the tenancy agreement. So yeah, Friday I'm not going to be here anymore. That was it.
Oh my, what did he say?
So it was like a few seconds of silence, which felt like hours.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me. He's like, because bear in mind, you've got to understand at this point, yeah, my parents are so used to me just going for what I want in terms of like career-wise. Me not going to uni already caused chaos. Me doing creative work confused the hell out of them. And then me being in the film industry for a while confused the hell out of them. They just didn't know where my head was at. And to be fair, they're right to feel that way because I didn't know where my head was at. I was just going with what I enjoyed. Yeah. And for them, that's a weird concept because, you know, our parents, they want structure, you know, degree, marriage, kids, go kind of thing. So at that point, like, I think my dad was just kind of used to it in some ways. I just don't think he realized, I don't think he deeped how much of an independent go-getter he raised. I don't think he actually deeped it. And I don't think he deeped how reckless I can be. But like, it's not reckless just for the sake of being reckless. It's more like I'm trying to actually make a life decision. It just happens to be reckless because of the environment we've grown in and the culture we're from. Yeah. So like
in other world, it's just basic.
Hardy. Yeah. It's normal.
Yeah.
To them, they could be like some Ladan people watching. They're like, "What is this, Julie? What's that?" You know. But for us, it's like, we're moving mad. Yeah. Before marriage, you want to move out, live by yourself.
Yeah,
you
but
think you
are.
Think you are.
Culture, bringing this and that,
Arab. Oh my gosh. So he looked at me and then he was like, "You've made your decision, haven't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." "You're not gonna change your mind, are you?" I'm like, "Nope." And he was like, "Well, what can I do?" Yeah. And he just walked off. And that scared me more because why is he so calm? I don't understand. Like, where's the shout in the spirit? But then my dad, by nature, he's not really like that. So it was kind of like expected, but still surprising because I'm like, "Bro, this guy, is this the most reckless thing I've done for you?" Yeah. And then my mum heard about it all. And she reacted exactly how I expected it. She was like, "We're going to have a family intervention. I've had enough of this. Is there a boy in your life? Is this what's causing you to behave like this? This, you know that classic line? Is there someone that's making you do this?
Where is he?
Tell me who the guy is right now." I was like, "Listen, there's no guy. Here's my contract. I want to get a job." Yeah. And I got one. So like, she called my relatives, like my mom's side of the family, most of them are in America. She called her mom, she called my grandma, she called my auntie, she called my uncles. And the funniest thing, this is how I know. If God says yes, no one can say no. Because she called all her siblings and her parents in it. And they're like, look what my daughter's doing. How could she be like this? You know, what did I do to deserve this? You know, I thought I raised the world. Da, 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 da. My grandma was telling my mom, like, why you acting like your daughter can't look after herself? She's moving out for a job. It's not the end of the world. I was like, isn't it that grandma came through? And then my uncle and my auntie, they backed me. I was like, yeah. Because my uncle was like, why are you acting like your daughter's not the most educated in the household right now? She takes care of everyone. She's very independent. You have nothing to worry about. And then my auntie as well, she messaged me privately. She's like, don't worry, like, you know, do what you need to do. Your mom will come around. And that's partly why I don't 100% regret the way I did things. I wish the context was different and the circumstance was different. That would have been ideal. But then looking back, I think part of why I was low-key okay with being this reckless is that my parents, even if they don't agree with everything I do, it got to a point where they kind of just left me to it because I'm never going to make a decision that's harmful to myself or to them. Mm-hmm. Yes, it might be a decision that they don't understand, or it might be crazy for them because they've never done it before. It's not something they grew up knowing. But like, I always explain to them why I'm doing something. I've just learned sometimes with Somali parents, no amount of explaining is going to change anything. At this point, you just have to show them that you've got the proof. Like, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to show you this is how I do it. Sometimes that's the best way to do with Somali parents because you'll sit there going back and forth and you won't really get anywhere. So that's partly why I felt like, you know what, this is crazy and my parents are going to react so mad, but I know they're going to get over it. Because you know how Somali parents are. They'll be dashing up in car, left, right, and center. They'll drown you in car. yeah.
And how
a few weeks later, they'll be like, oh, Hoya, come here. I love you. Hoya, my aunt. You know, so like, I knew like with Somali parents, so a lot of them were very dramatic, and then after that, it's like nothing happened.
Yeah.
So I was kind of banking on that, and on top of that, I know this sounds really bad. I kind of knew my parents weren't gonna like cut me off or disown me, like, because I felt like at the end of the day, I'm the eldest, and when you're the eldest, it's like you're the third parent, and I knew they just weren't gonna let me get away with living in my own yard, making peas. They weren't just gonna let me live and enjoy. They want some of that pea, bro. They want you to help out with the Utah and shit.
Yeah.
So,
that's a whole
like,
video.
There's a part of me that's like, you know, I'm gonna leverage that.
Yeah.
That was like the cheeky side of me. I was like, you know, I'm gonna bank on that. I guarantee you, they're not gonna let me enjoy all my peas by myself. Like, and to be honest, I wouldn't leave them hanging, and I think they knew that as well. Like, I'm not now gonna enjoy myself with a new job, new house, if my parents are struggling, and they knew that, which is why ultimately they just got over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now I've told them, and part of what made things slightly easier in a weird way was that they only had like just about 24 hours to go crazy. Because I told them like the day before. So it's like, you know what? Once this is the last night I'm spending here while they go crazy. At the end of the day, I have to go. At the end of the day, I have to go to my new house. So then, because it was on a Friday, like my siblings were all at school, but they already knew what was happening. I was like, guys, don't worry. I'm not that far from outside of London. Like, I'll be able to visit. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So then they're all at school, and then it was just my parents are around, and I was like, oh, I'm going, guys. I have my little suitcase and a bunch of bags. And I was like, bye, mom. Like, no hug? No? Okay, cool. And I was saying with my dad. And then it just awkward, but I felt like the moment I stepped out of that door and I was going on my train towards where I need to go, I don't know, like, it just felt really unreal. And then I go to the new house. As soon as I landed in, I'm talking like it's a flight. As soon as I got to the new town, like, everything looked different, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. Like, I just felt like I was a new person, and nobody knows me here, so nobody needs to see how stressed I am right now. I was winging it. So like, I go to my new place now, you know, the agent's there, she shows me around, she's like, oh yeah, this is all the safety stuff and whatever. There's like a few final contracts to sign, and then yeah, I had the whole house to myself. And I remember I just put all my stuff down and I sat down, and I think at that point my brain was like, okay, slow down. And then all the emotions hit me, and I just started crying. I was just crying out of happiness. I was so relieved.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, I just, you know, you're just sobbing and you just feel like a weight's being lifted off your shoulder.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like for me. The whole time I cried, and then I remember I went for a walk, and yeah, I remember at some point even like there's loads of greenery in some parts of where I live, and I just screamed like some one crazy woman. I just screamed. I just needed to let something out that was all of it. I was like, I was proper screaming. And then yeah, I got back. I think I ordered some pizza or something, and then I ate, and then I slept, and then the next day I woke up. You don't understand. The first Fajr prayer I prayed in that new house was the most peaceful.
Wow.
It was so peaceful. Like, I could hear my own thoughts. Nobody's gonna touch my stuff. My sister can't steal my clothes. I'm not gonna hear screaming.
Yeah.
What? This is the first time ever where I'm not gonna be babysitting. Where I'm not gonna have to think about, oh, I need to make sure their school uniform is done. I need to make sure the little ones are this, and that. Like, for the first time ever, it was like, it's just me.
Yeah.
And it felt so unreal. Like, it felt like, damn. And I thought I would struggle so much being by myself, and I was like,
but
how could I?
You are the oldest, and you get to somewhere.
Exactly. I was like, how could I?
5 million tasks at home, you know.
Listen, I've been a lawyer, I've been a cleaner, advocate, the whole lot. So I was like,
we are the house. We are literally the house. We are the house, you know. And it's so sad because I can't relate to you in terms of like babysitting and looking after kids, because I only have like 2 brothers. One brother is like similar age, and the other one is only 1, and that's and he does not live with us. So basically at home was just me and my brother growing up, and my other brother, my second brother, he's only 1. So there's a huge gap. and we just grew up together, so there was no responsibility from in terms of looking after. And because there's only three of us, which is quite rare in Somali households, I just had the privilege of having my own room, no other children in the house, and my brother and I were the same age, so we could have a conversation. And he was a boy. On top of that, I think if you have a girl sister, you guys have to share a room, and you know how London is in terms of space. So because he was a boy and a girl, we had separate rooms. So I was very lucky in that sense, and it was just always small home. It was just three of us, me, my mom, and my brother. So that helped. So I can't relate to you in terms of that, but because of the network that I run and all my friends, this story is so common in terms of like girls who are now age of like 22 to all the way 32, exactly that age group. Being at home is just so difficult. And obviously I think I've made a Twitter announcement. I just said like, hey, we need to talk about moving out and like moving out from toxic family and this and that, and then Twitter went crazy. They were like, oh my god, how dare
that's
you.
a Somali community for you though, because I feel like
they don't just
Somali people, right?
They don't respect.
This is the issue of our community.
Yeah,
we're comfortable saying there's problems, but then when it comes to being honest about those problems and understanding that, you know, we do need to address some of the behaviors in our families, all of a sudden, why are you disrespecting your elders? Why are you moving like a little Western girl? This and that. And it's like, how can you then say, oh, we're the generation that's going to change things, but you still have the mentality of your elders?
In fact,
and it's not the good parts.
It's worse.
It's the bad parts of that.
It's worse. Like it's like the older generation, but more toxic. I'm like, why are you moving like an auntie? Like you're 21, you're 24.
Listen, I've deeped it. Some women, right? They'll be complaining about the same aunties that they're turning into.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're holding on to all those toxic values, and you're so busy like getting into people's business and being all nosy and stuff and judging people.
You don't.
It's like, can you actually afford to be doing that right now, babes? Like, what's going on? You know? And that was and another thing that's really frustrating is that when I moved out, obviously things were very awkward because of how the whole thing happened. So like for a few weeks, even months, like 3-4 months, I actually didn't hear anything from my family, and I was only able to understand what was going on because through my siblings, because I have them on social media. So that was quite awkward for a while, but I kind of expected that, and I think in some ways it was needed. I think we needed that distance apart and that time apart, just so both sides can like really process what had just happened. And then after a while, like my mom's like, me and mom right now, we're like this, so she's come to terms with that. And if anything, I feel like she's found a new sense of respect for me, and I've also found a new level of respect for her. Like I feel like we're knowing each other, we're learning about each other in different ways because of the nature of our relationship and because of the whole situation. So like my parents have come to terms with it, and I've kind of come to terms with the fact that even if they're not 100% okay with it, we're still civil and we can still love and respect each other. And now it's like, because there's a physical distance, they have to treat me like an adult. Because what happens when you're the eldest daughter, especially, it's like, you're giving us adult responsibilities, but you're treating us like kids. So how does that work, you know? So like now it's like they have to talk to me like an adult. I'm still their child regardless, but they're going to have to understand, like, I am old enough to know. They know that, because it's like, if you knew that I wasn't old enough to understand things, why are you giving me all these government papers to read and translate, you know? So it's like, they came to terms with it, but it was like, a lot of extended family members, they seem to have a problem with it, and it's like, I haven't spoken to you in years. I've walked past you on road, and you can't figure out where I'm from. And you're supposed to be my auntie, like, as in my parents' sibling. And you don't even know who I am, but all of a sudden you want to know why I moved out, you want to know all my business and everything. It's like, why? And one thing that I frustrates me about Somali people in general is that they let the community's opinions affect how they run their families. And so what you'll find is that my parents aren't actually that strict, because that's one thing I deep, like my parents are actually not very strict. It's just when an outsider's input comes along and
big deal
adds on to the conversation, all of a sudden they switch up, and it's like, why are you doing that? Because if I was in a situation where an extended family member was talking rubbish about my mum and dad and I was there, I wouldn't now listen to it and take that on board. I'll be defending my own parents in their absence. So why is it when it's the other way around that energy is not met? sometimes it's met, but a lot of the time it's like just taking it on board, and it's like, you know your parents and you know they don't agree with the stuff, but for some reason they have to put up this image. That's one thing I don't like.
It's like how can you let
I don't like in the Somali community.
It's like, how can you let your daughter do that? You know, how can you let her do these things? Like, for me, my mom is really young, super young, actually. So
same. Yeah.
I was, like, I think in terms of age, we kind of understand each other and we have that relationship that we can talk and we can communicate. And my mom was working before the benefit cut. Do you understand? So I grew up in a private home and my mom was literally paying up full rent, working. And, you know, there was this tension in the community. We grew up in Hammersmith and Fulham Borough. So it was like, oh, she's wearing trousers, she's going to work. Like, this is crazy. But this is like nearly 20 years ago. And my mom was just like, listen, you go sit there, do what you have to do. I'm happy with my 2 kids. I want to raise them. I want to work. I want to get on with my life. And my mom always worked. And obviously recently there's a cap on benefit and all these parents started working for my community. And I'm like, look at you, you know, you was looking down on my mom for getting on with her life, raising me and my brother independently, working. And they were just like, oh my God, what kind of mom? She's not wearing a abaya, she's not covered up, da, 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 da. Till this day, like, people that were talking bad of my mom, they call my mom and they're like, can your son, because my brother just finished his master's and he's doing well for himself. And then they're like, can your son mentor this and that? And it's just like, people that you look down on, people that you were taking the piss at, their kids turn out to be normal. And I'm grateful that my mom just literally, I don't really care about anybody. I care about Ilahe, Hoyo, and my dad, my grandma, and that's it. All these other relatives and my mom's like extended fam, I don't care for them, because at the end of the day, like, growing up,
they just add to the noise. Like, when you're deep, it's just noise.
Have you seen them?
Like, they're not actually saying anything meaningful.
Yeah, when
like,
you're growing
and
up,
I've noticed, and this is something that I had to like really talk to my parents about, and this was a difficult conversation to have with my mum and dad. Like, at some point I had to sit them down and I was like, look, this is who I am, this is who you raised me to be. Don't now be surprised that you raised someone that's very, because my parents, like, especially my dad, was very involved in my life growing up. So, like, you know, he taught me pretty much everything that I know now. So it's like, you raised me to be very independent and self-sufficient. You raised me to always put my family as a priority first. You raised me to always go for what's right, put your trust in Allah and do your best.
Yeah.
You drilled that into my head for so many years.
Yeah.
Why are you now surprised that I'm acting on it? Why are you now surprised? And I realized some parents, they'll raise you to be, you know, free, do this, do that, do that. But low key, they're hoping, or they're trying to mold you in their image. And I think a lot of parents need to understand, it's like, give your children a loving environment, you know, teach them the deen, the dakhan, everything, yeah? But
let them be.
Don't let them be, because at the end of the day, they're going to grow up as individuals in their own right. And that's our right over our parents, Islamically speaking. So I had to sit there and tell my parents, like,
for some you have no rights. For most,
and it's like, and they'll bring up deen when it's convenient to them, and it's like, okay, I know that you have rights too, but so do we, and we need to understand that. And I had to sit with my parents and be like, guys, I know you guys mean well for me, and I need you to understand that as your child, I also mean well for you, because no one really goes out of their way to be horrible to their parents for no reason. Like, no one does that. And it's like, I had to literally explain it to them, like, look, at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to come to terms with the fact that we don't see life the same. We're not gonna agree on everything, and that's fine. As long as what I'm doing is meaningful and it has a reason, and I'm able to explain to you why. And that's what it was for the most part, because everything that I was doing that was rebellious is always career things anyway. So it was like, I'm never gonna put you in a position where I'm gonna leave you alone or abandon you or harm you or anything like that. So just understand that, and understand that you're gonna have to treat me like an adult whether you like it or not. And it's like, I had to proper break it down to them, and it wasn't an easy conversation. It was a very emotional conversation to have, but I felt like after that, coupled by the fact that I actually don't live with them anymore, they had no choice but to actually understand, you know what, like, my daughter's actually grown. She doesn't have to be married for me to see her as a grown woman in her own right. And I think that's what's common in the Somali community. They're not going to see you as a grown woman unless it's convenient for them until you're married.
Marriage is like our top priority. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's,
and it's like, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But not every woman's like that. And with parents, sometimes you have to have the difficult conversation, and sometimes you have to accept that your parents are not going to understand. It's as simple as that.
True.
They're not going to understand. There's no point forcing them to understand. You just do what you need to do. You just put your trust in Allah and do what you have to do. Whether they come around or not, it is what it is. Like, I've had to come to terms with that.
Also for your mental health, because I do know a lot of people who are in a situation where they are not happy at home. And most of the time, you're worried about what they're going to think and blah, blah, blah. And I might be biased. I always tell them, listen, you need to start looking for a house. And they're like, I say that to them because I am in a privileged situation. I've never had that issue because the space was never the issue. But if because I create content, I host events, like I do all of these things. And if I didn't have space, I'm an adult, you know, I'm a grown-ass woman. I've been working since I was 17, alhamdulillah. I'm working, so I could afford to move out. And now you can share home with other people. And some people will make you believe like, oh my God, but you're living in a shared house and you left your house. And I'm like, hold up now. You want to fight? Because it's not the same. If you're living and you have your own room, no one is bothering you, you can go and do your thing. That's not the same as being in a home with 11 of your other family members. It's not the same. Don't try to be like sharing a home and living at home is the same. But anyways, like, I just want to say, like, anyone who's watching today, if you do want to move out, try to do it in the right way, but there's no right way or wrong way. Put you first and do the exit. That's all I'm saying. But also another thing I want to ask you is that before we wrap up, like, any advice to anyone who's in a position at home who wants to move out? What advice would you give them since you actually did that yourself?
Yeah. So let me just quickly touch on the house share situation.
Yeah.
For me, the house share, even though you're living with strangers, it builds up your resilience more than anything. I think ideally the best thing is to have your own apartment. So alhamdulillah, now I have my own place.
Yeah.
But in terms of like tips and advice to anyone who wants to move, the best way to get independence is financially. I feel like once you've got that financial, even if it's just starting off, you might not need the most amount of money, but I feel like the biggest barrier for a lot of women that are trying to move out is money. Money and a good group of friends. Like, those two combined, mad.
Unstoppable.
And I feel like, speaking of money, actually, I feel like that's another conversation for another time, like Somali families and the boundaries when it comes to finances. Because I feel like there's this habit where as soon as a child is earning a certain amount, right, 90% of it goes to us.
Yeah.
The rest of it is for you, but technically for us. And it's like, that stops a lot of individuals from gaining that sort of independence.
Let me add this. There's a girl who tweeted, I think she was, I don't know where she was from, but she's black, and she said, even if you're earning 70k a year in an African household, you're still poor.
You don't tell them.
And she was explaining that, you know, we still have to contribute a lot, and we have to contribute because if our family, we were the first people to push a career forward. Our parents you still need to help your parents, and then they help their parents. So that's the thing, that's the reality. And then she said, and I didn't know that Nigerian sisters and Ghanaian sisters were also
it happens in Somalia,
so
as well.
I already know that it happens to Somali girls, and
that's another thing that happened to me as well. So like, obviously, with a new career, my salary doubled, everything changed as well. So like, for them, it was like, oh, so how much are you earning? And at first I was thinking, should I just say it's less than what I'm earning? Yeah. But then I decided, you know what? No, I'm going to tell them exactly what I earn, and I'm going to break down exactly what I'm going to give them and why. Yeah. And I had to do it that way because before, I wasn't doing stuff like that because I was under their house. So they had that sort of leverage of, but you live under our roof. So, you know, don't act like this, and that. And it's frustrating because it's like, you want your kids to grow up and to be, you know, good people and to go out there and be self-sufficient. Yeah. But you're exploiting them. Because a lot of Somali households, right, they're taking so much money from their children. And it's like, when you look at it, most of that isn't even going to the household itself. They're going to random relatives, and not all of them are using it for good things. And I think we need to be honest about that. And at some point, that conversation needs to happen. I feel like that's a separate topic in and of itself.
Yeah.
So I feel like for a lot of people who could be watching this thinking, I really want to move up, I already know 100% that the biggest barrier for you, especially if you live in cities like London, money. So I feel like try, if you can, find a way to stash some money to the side and build what I like to call an FO fund. So like, it's just a little pot where it's like, when things hit the fan, I'm out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So try and do that. Even if it's going to take you years, do it. The earlier you start, the better. And also see if you've got any friends that are willing to help out, that are willing to, you know, even if they've maybe got their own place and stuff, like see if that could be an option while you're figuring things out. Because obviously it depends on like your situation. I feel like I'm lucky because my parents are not really that strict. They're strict, but not to the point where they would harm me if I went and did my own thing, which is why I'm here now. But some families, you know, they're very, very strict, and their daughters might not have the freedom to even do what we do. Like, you know, so they might be in a different situation where they could be exploited on another level. So it just depends on your situation.
I heard a story through my network that the girl is working and she has no access to her bank account.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories of that. That's mad.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Personally, I couldn't play, but in my head, I'm like, I would be mad because I love helping my parents, and you know, there's the whole thing of like, stop dishing.
Yeah.
I love helping my parents. I love helping my mom. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Exactly.
Having access to your own bank account.
That's mad. And the issue with that, with the girl not having access to her bank account, I feel like at that point, do you know, it's like with Somali daughters, especially the eldest, like it's a lot of guilt tripping. So that's why our parents feel like they can get away with it. And with Somali parents, if you enable them, they won't stop. For them, they really won't stop. Especially as a girl, they won't think and be like, you know what? Why am I doing this to my child? They won't do it. And that's the sad reality of it. If it's going to benefit them, they won't question it, nothing, unless it's in their interest to do so. And when it gets to a point where you have access to your child's bank account and they don't, at that point, if you are someone that's in that situation, honestly, as much as they're your parents and they have rights, if it gets to that point, that is basically your parents just not respecting you as a person, full stop. And I know it's not something you might want to hear, but that's essentially what it is. Because at that point, your parents don't have any regards for you in terms of your health, your well-being, your financial situation. They don't have any regards for you unless it's in their interest. And when you are at that situation, that's literally like you're stuck. And those situations are mad because I can't imagine.
We need to do more planning for such situations, do you know what I mean? And also there are girls in the Somali community, I think we're a little bit like, we're okay with certain things and whatever, but there are girls from other communities where moving out is almost like
non-existent.
Death. You know,
I think women need to stick together. Somali women need to band together. Like, and it's, do you know what's mad? Like, even when I moved out, loads of Somali women like reached out. They're like, oh my god, this is so cool, this and that. And I even did a whole YouTube video on my whole experience anyway. But then there's so many women that are like, oh, this is this is that. And these are married women. And I realized at some point, I wanted to get mad and lash back at them, but I realized like a lot of these women have been in these situations. They haven't been able to take the chance and do something for themselves. And they've now married, they've internalized all of that resentment for not being able to take control of their own lives before they got married or whatever. And they're lashing it out on people like me. And I feel like one of the best things Somali girls can do for each other when it comes to things like this is band together. Because I personally don't believe being independent is enough. Like, there's a difference between being independent and having autonomy. Like, because when you look at it, Somali women in general, whether it's the mums, the grandmas, us, we are independent by nature. We are. And men don't challenge that. Families don't challenge that. The culture doesn't challenge that because it's not in their interest to challenge a Somali woman's independence. Because independence for a lot of Somali mums is being in charge of the house, looking after the kids, balancing a job, balancing their life. And the man calls himself the man of the house, but nothing's being done as a man of the house. You know? So that is still a form of independence for a woman because she's taking everything in her control, but she hasn't got any autonomy in her life because she hasn't got control over what she has independence over. That independence is coming out of necessity. So I feel like we're now at the stage, our generation is at the stage where we have way more options for independence. We just need to make sure that we're getting our autonomy with that independence so that we can actually live the lives we know we deserve to live. That doesn't have to involve marriage all the time. There's nothing wrong with marriage. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But the issue comes when it becomes like something that you're pressured into, something that you have to see as an escape. Like when you are thinking
You
the
know,
only way I can leave this house is if I get married, that's red flags
and
right there, because
it happens.
it happens a lot. It's
And
very, very common.
And it's so sad, like, and I feel my heart breaks that you felt like that's not your home. You don't feel at home, and the only way you exit is through marriage. And if that's what the move that you're thinking, please, 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 like, start saving up money, take a decision, do move out, and do not make the decision of such a large decision of being married just because, you know, you feel like there's no other way.
Don't see being single as a curse. Don't be sick, because a lot of people might be thinking that, oh, you know what, the only way I'm going to get out of this is marriage, this and that's the easy way out.
No,
you're going to think that in the moment, but then what happens, and I've seen it happen to a lot of people around me, what happens is you get into a year of that marriage and you realize, because when you move out of your parents' home, you discover a lot about yourself when you're not living with your parents anymore. Like, I've learned so much, the good and bad about myself, that I didn't know, and I wouldn't have picked up on if I was living with family. And so it's not uncommon to find that when you move in with another person, like a spouse. So the reason why, and I remember stressing this out to a few of my friends who got married, some of them are divorced, and this theme kept coming up, like, oh yeah, I'm going to move out, I'm going to start fresh, new life. That fresh start or new life, evaluate that. Because are you saying that from a place where you feel confident already by living with your family? Or are you saying that from a place where you feel like you're escaping from the shackles of being in a house where you're controlled into now someone else's life as well? Because that's a new chapter, you're starting with someone, not yourself. So if you've got unresolved issues with yourself, it doesn't matter who you move in with, they're still going to walk around with you. So you have to be honest with yourself. And I say this a lot because I see it with a lot of Somali girls. Like, they will get married and then they realize, I actually don't like this. And they're so busy thinking about escaping, they don't even pay attention to the person that they're moving in with. And that tends to end up being someone that's even worse for them. And then they run back and it just becomes like a whole toxic cycle. So if you are moving out, understand that it's a process. Like, you're going to have to do a lot of work to figure out who you are as a person, and that takes time.
Growth, personal development is
exactly.
And it's like, even when you're in a relationship, it's not the same as being in a relationship and living in with that person. It's not the same. You know, you guys have to actually, like, live together. That's when you get to know the true colors of that person. But if I
feel like that's when you get to see their character in full form.
It's no more acting. But if it's independency that you want, if you want to wake up and just be in peace, or you want to live by yourself, or you feel like the house that you're in right now is not providing, I beg you, move out. That's it.
And the thing is, when you have your own place, right, it's like you get this sort of clarity that you just don't get anywhere else. And it's not even about just the house being physically empty and it's just you, but also just mentally, you have more space for yourself. And then when you have more space for yourself and you're investing in yourself, like, I personally have found that when I've done all of that, and even though I'm still in a work in progress, it's improved my relationship with other people, because I have more space for myself and I'm nurturing myself, I'm investing in myself to the point where I'm in a happier position. And that reflects on the people that I'm communicating with. Like, I feel more at peace, which means I can actually radiate that more. And it's like, and that's why I stress, like, when you commit into things, or when you are making a commitment to a person or a job or whatever, having that mental clarity is so important. And linking back with the whole moving in with someone, relationship and whatnot, I feel like, because now I've spent quite a while, like, 2 years now? Almost 2 years living outside of my parents. I feel like now, if I was to, look for someone or get into a committed relationship, I feel like I have this sort of mental clarity that I wouldn't have had if I had just went from my parents to marriage. I feel like when you spent so much time with yourself, by yourself, and you've learned all the good things about yourself, you've learned all the bad things about yourself that you need to work on, it gets to a point where even if you're coming across people that are trying to move to you, this and that, it's like, it's easier to filter out, and it's easier to not get sucked into all of these things. Because, like, I'm in a position now, it's like, there's a lot of things in a man that I don't really need. It's more of like a want. It's like, I'm not going to be moved by you having your own whip or own money, this and that. It's like, I want those things, but I don't need you to rely. I don't need to rely on you for that. And it sounds really obvious, but you'd be surprised about how many women settle because of things like that. And like when you are independent for a long period of time, you've done the work, you've gone through the battles of figuring out who you are and working on yourself, things like that, they just become, and it's not just limited to relationships, it's jobs, friends, how you deal with family members. Is this clarity, this understanding where it's like, you know what, I have control of my life in this aspect, and the things that I don't have control over, I'm going to leave it with Allah, and I'm just going to do the work. And it's honestly one of the best feelings ever. Like I wish that every woman could feel the way I feel when it comes to that mental clarity you get from having your own space. Like it's unreal.
No, I'm so grateful for sharing your journey, and also like touching on important topics in terms of like privacy, independence, and also just having your own space and making decisions for yourself. And I feel like that's itself empowering to yourself and also other women who might be watching this video who are thinking of their next move. My personal advice would be finance, because financial independency is the most important thing. And if you have that, then everything else you can work around it. But if you're thinking of that, please do save some money. Think of your next plan, create a vision board, and like where do you want to see in the next 2-3 years to yourself. And if where you are, it's not bringing you happiness, it's not bringing you peace, and it's not
take risks.
Jump. There are people like Amina who already did that, and you just feel free to like watch her YouTube videos and figure out more stuff and connect with other women as well in different platforms like the one that you talked about, and also come to Tackle Network Women events as well. You just meet so many interesting characters like Amina and learn from them, and we just share wisdom, and there's no price on it. You can't put price on these type of stories. I think, in my opinion, that they're amazing. So thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you guys gained something from this video. I love this girl, so at the end of the day, she will come back, inshallah. If she has free time with this topic that I feel like she can relate to, I will have her back. So thank you guys for watching, and have a lovely one. And thank you for joining.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, fam. Hit the subscribe button, yeah?
I need to
just spam the comments.
You need help. Okay? And with her plants, I need. You know what? I know I've made it to her house when I get my own name in one of those plants. I know I've made it when I see Ladan plants. Like if that's a nice one, like a spider one, I know.
Don't worry, I've got a few more that I've ordered. So
that's it. I'm in the list. Have a good one. Bye bye.